Excuse me. This is going to be a reading from the National Conference of Insurance Legislatures for the states. Model Act regarding use of credit information in personal insurance, readopted by the Property Casualty Insurance and Executive Committees on November 15, 2015, originally adopted by the Property Casualty Insurance and Executive Committees on November 22, 2022, readopted by the committees, respectively, on November 17, 2005, and on November 19, 2005, amended on July 12, 2009, to expand on extraordinary life circumstances provisions. Table of content. 1. Excuse me for this not being clear, but gotta work with what we got right now. World, is it on air? Collins Ells. Section 1, short title. This act may be called the Model Act regarding use of credit information in personal insurance. Section 2, purpose. The purpose of this act is to regulate the use of credit information for personal insurance so that consumers are afforded certain protections with respect to the use of such information. Section 3, scope. This act applies to personal insurance and not to commercial insurance. For purposes of this act, personal insurance means private passenger automobile, homeowners, motorcycle, mobile homeowners, and non-commercial dwelling fire insurance policies, and boat, personal watercraft, snowmobile, and recreational vehicle policies. Such policies must be individually underwritten for personal, family, and household use. No other type of insurance shall be included as personal insurance for the purpose of this act. Section 4 is definitions for the purpose of this act. These defined words have the following meaning. Adverse action, a denial or cancellation of, an increase in any charge for, or a reduction or other adverse or unfavorable change in the terms of coverage or amount of any insurance existing or applied for in connection with the underwriting of personal insurance. Affiliate, any company that is controlled by, or is under common control with another company. C. Applicant, an individual who has applied to be covered by a personal insurance policy with the insurer. D. Consumer, an insured whose credit information is used or whose insurance score is calculated in the underwriting or rating of a personal insurance policy or an applicant for such a policy. Consumer Reporting Agency, any person which, for monetary fees, dues, or on a cooperative non-profit basis regularly engages in whole or in part in the practice of assembling or evaluating consumer credit information or other information on consumers for the purpose of furnishing consumer reports to third parties. Credit information. Any credit related information derived from a credit report, found on a credit report itself, or provided on an application for personal insurance. Information that is not credit related shall not be considered credit information. Information that is not credit related shall not be considered credit information, regardless of whether it is contained in a credit report or in an application, or is used to calculate an insurance score. Credit report. Any written, oral, or other communication of information by a consumer reporting agency bearing on a consumer credit worthiness. Any written, oral, or other communication of information by a consumer reporting agency bearing on a consumer's credit worthiness, credit standing, or credit capacity which is used or expected to be used or collected in whole or in part for the purpose of serving as a factor to determine personal insurance premiums, eligibility for coverage, or tier placement. Insurance score, a number or rating that is derived from an algorithm, computer application, model, or other process that is based in whole or in part on credit information for the purposes of predicting the future insurance loss exposure of an individual applicant or insured. Section 5, use of credit information. An insurer authorized to do business in insert state, so it'll be here, Louisiana. An insurer authorized to do business in Louisiana that use credit information to underwrite or rate risks shall not: A. Use an insurance score that is calculated using income, gender, address, zip code, ethnic group, religion, marital status, or nationality of the consumer as a factor. B. Deny, cancel, or non-renew a policy of personal insurance solely on the basis of credit information without consideration of any other applicable underwriting factor independent of credit information and not expressly prohibited by Section 5A. Drafting note. This subsection prohibits an insurer from refusing to insure an applicant. This subsection prohibits an insurer from refusing to insure an applicant, insured, or other individuals seeking insurance coverage because the person's insurance score fails to meet or exceed a minimum numeric threshold, unless one or more other applicable underwriting factors independent of credit information are considered. C. Based on insured's renewal rates for personal insurance solely upon credit information without consideration of any other applicable factor independent of credit information. D. Take an adverse action against a consumer solely because he or she does not have a credit card account. Take an adverse action against a consumer solely because he or she does not have a credit card account without consideration of any other applicable factor independent of credit information. E. Consideration of absence of credit information or an inability to calculate an insurance score in underwriting or rating personal insurance unless the insurer does one of the following. Unless the insurer does one of the following. 1. Treats the consumer as otherwise approved by the insurance commissioner, supervisor, director, if the insurer presents information that such an absence or inability relates to the risk of the insurer. 2. Treats the consumer as if the applicant or insured had neutral credit information as defined by the insurer. 3. Excludes the use of credit information as a factor and excludes the use of credit information as a factor and use only other underwriting criteria. Excludes the use of credit information as a factor and use only other underwriting criteria. Excludes the use of credit information as a factor and use only other underwriting criteria. F. Takes an adverse action against a consumer based on credit information, unless the insurer obtains and uses the credit report used or an insurance score calculated within 90 days from the date the policy is first written or renewal is issued. Use credit information unless not later than every 36 months following the last time that the insurer obtained current credit information for the insured. The insurer recalculates the insurance score or obtains an updated credit report regardless of the requirements of this subsection. 1. An annual renewal upon the request of a consumer or a consumer's agent. The insurer shall re-underwrite or re-rate the policy based upon the current credit report or insurance score. An insurer need not recalculate the insurance score or obtain the updated credit report of a consumer more frequently than once in a 12-month period. At annual renewal, upon the request of a consumer or the consumer's agent, the insurer shall re-underwrite or re-rate the policy based upon a current credit report or insurance score. An insurer needs not recalculate the insurance score or obtain the updated credit report of a consumer more frequently than once in a 12-month period. 2. The insurer shall have the discretion to obtain current credit information upon any renewal before the 36 months if consistent with its underwriting guidelines. 3. No insurer need obtain current credit information for an insured despite the requirements of subsection G1 if one of the following applies. A, uh, the insurer is treating the consumer as otherwise approved by the commissioner. B, the insurer is in most favorably priced tier of the insurer within a group of affiliated insurers. However, the insurer shall have the discretion to order such report if consistent with its underwriting guidelines. C, credit was not used for underwriting or rating such insured when the policy was initially written. However, the insurer shall have the discretion to use credit for underwriting or rating such insured upon renewal, if consistent with its underwriting guidelines. D, the insurer re-evaluates the insured beginning no later than 36 months after inception and thereafter based upon other underwriting or rating factors excluding credit information. No later than 36 months. H, use the following as a negative factor in any insurance scoring methodology or in reviewing credit information for the purpose of underwriting or rating a policy of personal insurance. 1. Credit inquiries not initiated by the consumer or inquiries required by the consumer for his or her own credit information. Inquiries relating to insurance coverage, if so identified on the consumer's credit report. 3. Collection accounts with a medical industry code, if so identified on the consumer's credit report. 4. Multiple lender inquiries, if coded by the consumer reporting agency on the consumer's credit report as being from the home mortgage industry and made within 30 days of one another, unless only one inquiry is considered. 4, I'm going to read it again. Multiple lender inquiries, if coded by the consumer reporting agency on the consumer's credit report as being from the home mortgage industry and made within 30 days of one another, unless only one inquiry is considered. 5. Multiple lender inquiries, if coded by the consumer reporting agency on the consumer's report on a consumer's credit report as being from the automobile lending industry and made within 30 days of one another, unless only one inquiry is considered. Multiple lender inquiries, if coded by the consumer reporting agency on a consumer credit report as being from the automobile lender industry and made within 30 days of one another, unless only one inquiry is considered. Section 6. Ordinary life circumstances. A, notwithstanding any other law or regulation, an insurer that use credit information shall, on written request from an applicant for insurance coverage or an insured, provide reasonable exceptions to the insurer's rating classifications, company, and tier placement, or underwriting rules or guidelines for the consumer who has experience and those credit information has been directly influenced by any of the following events. And look like it showed better like that. Excuse me. No, it don't, but I'm gonna read that one over. A. Notwithstanding any other law or regulation, an insurer that uses credit information shall, on written request from the applicant for insurance coverage or an insured, provide reasonable exceptions to the insurer's rates, rating classifications, company or tier placement, or underwriting rules or guidelines for a consumer who has experienced and whose credit information has been directly influenced by any of the following events. 1. Catastrophic event as declared by the federal and state government. 2. Serious illness or injury to an immediate family member. 3. Death of a spouse, child, or parent, offspring, or guardian. But they say death of a spouse, child, or parent. 4. Divorce or involuntary interruption of legally owned alimony or support payments. 5. Identity theft. 6. Temporary loss of employment for a period of 3 months or more if it results from involuntary termination. 7. Military development overseas. 8. Other events as determined by the insurer. B. If an applicant or insured submits a request for an exception as set forth in Section 6A, an insurer may, in its sole discretion, but is not mandated to 1. Require the consumer to provide reasonable written or independently verifiable documentation of the event. 2. Require the consumer to demonstrate that the event had direct or meaningful impact on the consumer's credit information. 3. Require such request be made no more than 60 days from the date of the application for insurance or the policy renewal. 4. Grant an exception despite the consumer not providing an initial request for an exception in writing. 5. Grant an exception where the consumer asks for consideration of repeated events or the insurer has considered this event previously. C. An insurer is not out of compliance with any law or rule relating to underwriting, rating, or rate filing as a result of granting an exception under this section. Nothing in this section shall be construed to provide a consumer or other insured with a cause of action that does not exist in the absence of this section. D. The insurer shall provide notice to consumers that reasonable exceptions are available and information about how the consumer may inquire further. E. Within 30 days of the insurer's receipt of sufficient documentation of an event described in Section 6A, the insurer shall inform the consumer of the outcome of that request for a reasonable exception. Such communication shall be in writing or provided to an applicant in the same medium as the request. Section 7, dispute resolution or error correction. If it is determined through the dispute resolution process set forth in the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, 15 U.S.C. 1681, 1681, it looked like 1681 1681 A5. A5. That the credit information of a current insured was incorrect or incomplete, and if the insurer receives notice of such determination from either the consumer reporting agency or from the insured, the insurer shall re-underwrite or re-rate the consumer within 30 days of receiving the notice. After re-underwriting or re-rating, the insurer shall make any adjustments necessary consistent with its underwriting or rating guidelines. If an insurer determines that the insured has overpaid premium, the insurer shall refund to the insured the amount of overpayment calculated back to the shorter of either the last 12 months of coverage or the actual policy period. Excuse me. I'm going to read that one over. Section 7, dispute resolution or error correction. If it is determined through the dispute resolution process set forth in the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, 15 U.S.C. 1681 A5, that the credit information of a current insured is incorrect or incomplete, and if the insurer receives notice of such determination from either the consumer reporting agency or from the insured, the insurer shall re-underwrite or re-rate the consumer within 30 days of receiving the notice. After re-underwriting or re-rating the insured, the insurer shall make an adjustment necessary, consistent with its underwriting or rating guidelines. If an insurer determines that the insured has overpaid premium, the insurer shall refund the insured the amount of overpayment calculated back to the shorter of either the last 12 months of coverage or the actual policy period. Section 8, initial notification. Excuse me, y'all. Section 8, initial notification. A, if the insurer writing personal insurance uses credit information in underwriting or rating a consumer, the insurer or its agent shall disclose either on the insurance application or at the time of the insurance application is taken that it may obtain credit information in connection with such application. Such disclosure shall be either written or provided to the applicant in the same medium as the application for insurance. The insurer need not provide the disclosure statement required under this section to any insured on the renewal policy if such consumer has previously been provided a disclosure statement. It's hot. B, use of the following example disclosure statement constitutes compliance with this section. In connection, it's in open quote, in connection with this application for insurance, we may review your credit report or obtain or use a credit-based insurance score based on the information contained in this credit report. we may use a third party in connection with the development of your insurance score. Use of the following example disclosure statement constitute compliance. So it must have that statement in it. In connection with this application for insurance, we may review your credit report or obtain or use the credit based insurance score based on the information contained in the credit report. We may use a third party in connection with the development of your insurance score. We're going to come back. We're going to hit section 9, adverse action notification. I try to keep it within 30 minutes. People attention span is messed up.